can I jump rope with bad knees? And then the other thing that I wanted to chat with you really quickly about is your messaging, because I think your messaging is important. The response that you made, the one that Sean T reposted or shared, I think that that's an important message for people to hear. And so jump right in. The first question is, can you still jump rope? Or was it jump roping affect your knees negatively? Or I can't jump rope because I got bad knees? Or
yeah, that's the thing I always say. So, first of all, bad knees is kind of subjective. It's like, what are bad knees, right? Is it like the knee is sore? Like what is bad knees? Because a lot of times, you know, people watch me jump and they're like, oh, I wish I had your knees. And then sometimes in the back of my head, because I know what's up with my knees,
you're like, oh, you don't.
If you only knew about my knees, okay, y'all would not want my knees, okay?
Yeah.
I would have me right? So with jumping rope, like jumping rope is a phenomenal, you know, exercise. And the rule of thumb, right, is if you can run or jog, you can jump, because jump rope can be safer than running and jogging, right? Most times people are just doing it wrong. And when you're jumping, all you literally have to do is jump high enough to clear the rope. That's it. A rope is like this thin. That's how high you need to jump. No higher than that. If you're jumping higher than that, then that's where you start to affect your knees, your joints, your ankles, and everything involved, right? And then there's also safety precautions that you can take, such as wearing the right shoes. You want to wear shoes that absorb shock, such as running shoes, cross trainers. Like way back when I was in my 20s, I used to wear Chucks. I would not dare ever in my life right now jump in a pair of Chucks, okay? Because I already know. You want to do things like jump on the correct surface. So you want to use like something like a rubber track turf or a wooden floor, because they will absorb that shock. A lot of times you do want to avoid the concrete. And if you don't have either, get a rubber mat. You know, they have them all over the internet. Also, you want to make sure that you're jumping high enough to clear the rope. Like I said, I think I mentioned that earlier. You want to jump on your toes only. You don't want to land hard. You want to land soft, and you don't want to jump on your whole foot, right? So these are things that you can do. And then in addition to those things, you can do leg strengthening exercises. So that would really depend on, you know, what works for you. And, you know, the great thing is, you know, myself, and just a little plug right now, myself and the Upgrade guys, we actually created a course for that. So it's called Jump Rope Skills Prep and Recovery, in which I give you like 24 different jump rope skills. But in addition to, even before we start the jump rope skills, I actually give you guidelines on how to jump properly. And then the Upgrade guys, what they did is they gave you preparing for an exercise, because a lot of times, you know, I'll get on the line and I'll say, hey, yeah, 10 minutes of jump rope is equivalent to a 30-minute jog on a treadmill. And then people go deep down in their soul and go in that closet and they find that jump rope, and then they start jumping. And then what happens a couple of days later, I get a DM like, oh my gosh, I'm in so much pain. And, you know, you got to prepare. You can't just like one day get up and
jump off the couch and run a marathon.
Right. Yeah. You know, the funny thing about it is I recently started doing like races, right? It's crazy. I recently started doing, but I don't like running and jogging, so I don't set myself up for that. But what I did do is I started like speed walking, right? Which is hard as well. So it was like one day, it was like a virtual race. So I taught my jump rope class, and I didn't eat any food, right? Because I don't like eating before I work out. So I went to teach my jump rope class, didn't eat. So I did that. And then I think I did something else. And then I went to Brooklyn to the track where I usually run and stuff like that. So all I had, because I was hungry, I went to GNC real quick, got a protein shake, drank the shake, and I walked. I mean, I did that. That was my first ever 10K. And I walked. When I tell you, when I was done, I did not want to get off the floor. Like, I did not want to get off the floor. I didn't want to drive home. I was throwing up the whole 9 yards. And it kind of brought me back to some of your reels that's saying, like, you can't just get off the couch one day and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And it's so true. And the following Sunday, I actually did an in-person race, but I was a bit more prepared as far as like hydration-wise, how to eat. And now in my current practice, like I'll go out and I walk 3 times a week, you know, just because you can't just show up on that day. And I had to learn that lesson as well. You can't just show up and do. You actually have to prepare the body, you know, for it. And And in this course that we collaborated with and together, basically they break it down. Like they give you all the exercises that you need, like to recover from the exercise, to strengthen the muscles. And I know I've seen somebody here earlier saying, you know, should you go to physical therapy? And quite honestly, I go to physical therapy. Like, I mean, my health insurance pays for it, you know what I'm saying? And it's a time for me to get out the house. And also in that time that I'm there, I know I'm going to do these exercises. And they're sports correction specialists, so they take care of me. Like, I don't mind. But at the same time, you know, all the exercises, my lady remind me every day, like, don't just do the exercises here, do the exercises at home, right? So you have, like, take what you have here, take the resources that you have here and use it. Like, you know, like all the prep and recovery and all that, that's not my specialty. So it's like I collaborated with someone where that's all they talk about. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do these things. I may do the exercises, the stretches and things like that, but you want to work with people that this is all they talk about. This is all they know. So that collaboration was amazing. And also too, you want to make sure that you learn jump rope the proper way. You don't, like I said, you don't want to just get the rope and then the rope is too long. So that when the rope is too long, your form is off. When your form is off, you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to be injured. Then you're going to be in my DM like, oh my gosh, I really love what you say. But because jump rope, it looks easy. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people used to jump as a little kid. They used to go to the park, la, 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 la. But then when you start getting 30 and 40, like, your body's different. You know what I'm saying? Like, la, 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 la. And then, like, you got to, like, do enough. Like, you kind of sit here and you look at people, and instead of starting at like the boring basic jumps that I preach all the time, I'll be like, yo, anytime I do like my live workouts, I'm doing 10 sets of 100 jumps. No tricks, no double London, no crosses, no nothing. 10 sets of 100 jumps. Start basic. Stop looking at these jump rope stars that you see online and trying to do what they do. Guess what? These people put in years, times, months, days, hours to get where they are today. You know, and I try to preach that all the time. Basics, 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 basics. Like, look at your favorite athletes, like the basketball players, for instance. When you see them in the gym, you barely see them playing basketball. You see them practicing skills. So you see them at the same 3-point line or sideline or whatever the lines are called, practicing that same shot. Like, I think I did my 45-minute walk the other day, like yesterday, and I walked the whole track for 45 minutes straight. The high school football team was there. I didn't see them throwing out one football. That whole time they were doing their drills and their practices and things like that. So y'all got to remember that the basics is what's going to make you great. And in order for you to become great, you have to learn the basics and start there.
Absolutely. Hey, we had a real quick question from somebody, man, Infinite Jonah going hard in the paint in the question space. He said, how long is the typical jump rope workout?
It honestly depends on you. So I always preach that 10 minutes is equivalent to a 30-minute jog. And for me personally, when I'm doing my jump rope workouts, I usually do like 10 sets of 100. And that would take me anywhere from 8 to 10 to 15 minutes. But like I said, I always record it live. So sometimes I'm answering questions in the midst of it. But if you're like really going with like little short breaks in between, because honestly speaking, it takes about 30 seconds to do 100 jumps if you're kind of going at a fast pace. But if you're going even at a regular slow pace, it should take you no more than 40 seconds to do 100 jumps, right? So if you're doing 10 sets of 100 jumps with like maybe a 10 to 15 to 30-second rest in between, you should be done in no more than 15 minutes. So, you know, if you're pressed for time, that's a good workout to do. If you don't want to put too much pressure on your joints, that's, what you want to do. But like I said, it really depends. If you're the type that like to do circuits and things like that, like do like your 3 strength exercises, then do like the 100 jumps in between as active rest. There's so many different ways that you can incorporate. You can do a Tabata. Like this morning, I did an 8-round Tabata, which was 4 minutes, kettlebell swing and jump rope. So it was like 20-second jump rope, 10 seconds rest, the 20-second kettlebell. And I did that continuously for 4 minutes. And then I finished it off with doing like 500 jumps, like in sets of 100. So it really depends. And you have to, know your body, and you have to know what's right for you and go accordingly.
Yeah. I think it's important because so there's a couple things like pulling out of that, jumping off the couch. That's my post today. It was like a lot of people in that sort of like boot camp Navy SEAL mindset of like just jumping up and going, and honestly, to be 100%, there was a time in my life where like that was easy to do. Like in my 20s, like that was totally easy to do. And so I think that sometimes like people, there's a miscommunication with people, especially younger people who might be viewing these sort of things right now, who are like, well, I do that. And it's like, the question becomes like, should you do that or
Right.
shouldn't you do that? But you know, when you think about it, like, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. And I'm the first one to say, like, yeah, I at 25 years old, I could do a lot of stuff, and I did do a lot of stuff. Would I do some of the stuff differently? Possibly.
Right.
Because that those cumulative things are the I am now the sum of those cumulative things, right? And so when we think about jumping rope, well, a lot of people don't understand because like they go straight to thinking about the knees, and I'm like, well, the first touch point is your foot, right? The foot has 26, was it 26 bones, something like that, right? I don't remember the exact. I always get mixed up, like 26, 23. I think it's 26 bones in the foot. That's a lot of damn bones.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of articulation. So that's a lot of connection points, right? And every joint, so that's a lot of joints. Every joint has 6 degrees of freedom, which means there's 6 directions of movement that every joint should be able to do. And that means your foot should be able to do that too. Now think about this. Your knee is one joint. It's one articulation with 6 degrees of freedom, right? The real question you should be asking yourself is, if my knees hurt when I'm doing this, is my foot even doing the job that it's supposed to be doing, right? Because your foot is the first thing that needs to absorb the forces and the load from the ground. Your foot is the first point of contact, right? And so you got half the people out here, and I tell people who come in an assessment, and I ask them, can you actively lift your big toe off the floor? And they can't even like they're looking at their big toe like, it's not moving, coach. It's not moving. I'm trying to, and then like it does this herky jerky sort of like, you know, and they move in other parts of their body trying to get it to go, and you like, all your big toe don't work, right? And so
Wait, is it just the big toe or the rest of the toes? I'm sitting here trying to.
well, both, right? But the big toe is the big toe is the important one, right? The big toe is really because we really on the ball of our foot a lot of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the big toe is the one where people get the most issue, right? But all your toes, you should be able to lift all your toes off the floor, and then you should be able to control them coming down and control them going up. Like there should be more movement through those toes, and there should be more control through those spaces, right? Because you think about it, when you land for a jump for jumping rope, your foot is doing this every time. Boom, 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 boom. So you think about it, like if this, like imagine this is your big toe. I know this is my whole hand, y'all, but imagine that's your big toe, right? Doing that every time. Boom, 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 right? And then I'm asking you to lift your big toe, and you can't actually lift it, right? So this tissue on the bottom of your foot never does this. It never stretches like that, right? And then this side of the joint is your neurological control, right? Because you're asking this stuff to pull the big toe into this position, right? So this is your neurological control. This is the stretch, but your tissue never gets stretched like that because you never do anything that puts your foot in that position, right? So then you immediately go to the concrete, you get your jump rope, and you start going boom, 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 and you start like quickly stretching this tissue that hasn't even been in this length, right? So now you're putting that tissue under your foot under a great deal of stress. And so if it doesn't give first, because it needs to be able to do that to absorb the forces and on up through the foot, you know, so we think about movement, you know, in the midfoot, we think about movement at the ankle, you know, and then on up. So all that force is being dissipated through the body, right? If those joints aren't dissipating force on the way up, if those joints are not able to move and shift, and then the force is going to be driven into the upper extremities, right? It's going to just go straight up, right? So the question that I have for a lot of people oftentimes is like, why don't you think prerequisites are important?